Now today we are going to cover test paper number 3. We'll finish off the remaining questions. Then we will take up an important question paper, test paper number 4 on SARFAESI, that is on SARFAESI, as well as credit monitoring and review, which is given in the HO circular, because this year the credit monitoring and review has underwent a lot of changes. So questions will be expected from that. Those questions I have given to you in circular based questions, that is first paper. In that all the questions are there. We'll be discussing all the questions. So maybe today we will not be able to finish. So I will finish off up to SARFAESI. Then we will take up this and then followed by NPA and recovery, provisioning norms, etc. Maybe the next slot which is given to me some other time. Okay. Now we are continuing with, for the people who are joined now, friends, we are continuing with the test paper number 3, question number 101. The paper is in front of you. Question paper number 3, question number 101. So the question is, when a endorser is forged on basis of endorsement, though the endorsement is forged, paying bank will get protection under. So it is very easy to tell the section. So the answer for the question is section 85(1) of NI Act. So under section 85(1) of NI Act, paying banker will get protection for passing a check with an endorsement which is a forged endorsement. Okay, though you may get shocked. What is this? A forged endorsement the paying banker is making, and still he is getting protection. I will show. See, there is an endorsement. That is, I will show the slide to you now. Okay, then you will understand. See, a regular, irregular, and forged endorsement. Regular, irregular, and forged endorsement. So what is a regular endorsement? For example, one of your customers has given a check payable to L. Jagannath. What he has written in the payee's name, pay to L. Jagannath, Jagannath, pay to L. Jagannath. So it may be order or bearer. If it is bearer, if I want to just pass it on to other without giving any endorsement, I will give to somebody. He in turn will give to somebody, it will be going on. Okay, finally one person will come and show it before you. You have to make a payment. It is a bearer instrument. As per Canara Bank policy guidelines, if the amount is 10,000 and above, when a third party comes and presents a check to you, you have to make the payment after ensuring his identity. That's all Canara Bank circular says. There is no restriction with regard to amount of the check. Okay, your customer can give even 1 lakh check to a third party. So he will come and present to you. There is no restriction beyond 20,000, beyond 50,000, you should not make the payment. If it is a bearer check, if the check is in order, but you have to take a little precaution. That is, ask the person who is presenting the check, what is your name, sir? What is give your ID card or something like that. Note down everything. You have to make the payment. If you feel there any suspicion for that, you have to contact the customer and then you can make the payment. Okay, that is a different instrument. So your customer has given me a check drawn payable to L. Jagannath. So what I did, I want to make it I want to make it as an order check. Okay, what I will do on the back of the check, I want to give money to one Mr. Kuppan. On the back of the check, I will write pay to Kuppan. Okay, or order. On the back of the check, I will write, because the check is payable to L. Jagannath. On the back of the check, I will write to pay to Mr. T. Kuppan and or order. Okay, so if it is, I have not written anything, order or bearer, so what is that condition? Both are written. What is the condition? We already see. I will specifically mention pay to Mr. T. Kuppan or order, and I will give the check to Kuppan. Now, so I have written. So what I have to do is, after writing pay to Mr. Kuppan or order, I have to put my full signature. In whatever way I am having the signature. Under the signature, while endorsing to Mr. Kuppan on the back of the check, LJ will write pay to Mr. T. Kuppan or order and put his signature. You do not have LJ's signature with you. Whose signature you are having in your specimen card? Only the check who has given the check to L. Jagannathan. His signature only you are having with you. So that person's signature, you do not have L. Jagannath's signature. You cannot verify L. Jagannath's signature at all. Okay, so I put pay to T. Kuppan or order and I put my signature. Under my signature, within brackets, I have to write that is L. Jagannath. the same manner in which it is appearing in the payee column in the check. See, LJAGENNATH, I will put because my signature may be like anything, but under the signature, I have to put within two brackets, L Jagannath, as appearing in the check as payee. This is called regular endorsement. You got my point? When a endorsed check comes to you like that, if the endorsement is regular, you can make the payment after identifying coupon, because coupon paid to Mr. Coupon or order. You got my point? What is a regular endorsement? That is, endorser will put his signature. Under the signature, he will write the name as appearing as the payee in the check. That is called a regular endorsement. So whether Jagannathan has put the signature or somebody has forged the signature, you need not worry. You have to see whether that signature is there of Jagannath and whether that is name of the Jagannath has written correctly as appearing in the payee's column. You have to verify your drawer's signature and all other things in the account. Suppose within the bracket, if Jagannath has written instead of L Jagannath, Jagannath only, or he has written L Jagannathan. So this is called irregular endorsement. A paying banker will get protection if he makes made a payment of that is endorsed check, and if it is regular. If it is irregular, what is irregular? I have given the example. If it is irregular, he will not get protection. And if it is a forged endorsement, somebody has put L Jagannath signature and written the name correctly, L Jagannath, then also paying banker will get the protection. So when the paying banker will get protection with regard to endorsed check, the check should be a regular endorsement. So that is, if the endorsement is irregular, he will not get the protection. If it is a forged endorsement also, if the endorsement is regular, the paying banker will get the protection. Okay, so now let us see the question. Question number 101. When an endorsed check is paid in due course on the basis of regular endorsement, though, 1 minute. Hello. Sorry for the disturbance. When the endorsed check, question number 101, when an endorsed check is paid in due course on the basis of regular endorsement, though the endorsement is forged, paying banker will get protection under section 85(1) of NI Act. Correct answer for the question is 85(1). I explained to you what is a regular endorsement, what an irregular endorsement, and also what is a forged endorsement. Okay, sir. Question number 102. As per NI Act, the validity of a check is 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, none of these. What's the correct answer? It is coming to your mind immediately. As per NI Act, the validity of a check is 3 months. So that is not correct answer. The validity of a check as per NI Act is continues to be 6 months only. But you are telling the check is not valid for more than 3 months. DD is not valid more than 3 months. With effect from 1/4/2012, Reserve Bank of India, as per Section 35A of Banking Regulation Act, reduced the validity of a check from 6 months to 3 months. Even though Negotiable Instrument Act says the validity of a check is still 6 months only. So what is the question? As per NI Act, the validity of a check is 6 months. As per NI Act, it continues to be 6 months. Okay, so you should not take 3 months, you have to 3 months. Suppose had they put the validity of the check is dash months as per Banking Regulation Act with effect from 1/4/2012. In that case, it is 3 months. Keep that in mind. Question number 1. So question seems to be very simple, but answer is a different answer. Question number 102, answer is B. Question number 102, answer is B. Because I am repeating the answer also. Somebody, when you hear the video, you should know the correct answer. Question number 103. The punishment for the drawer under section 138 of Negotiable Instrument Act in the case of compromise between parties, that is compounding of the offense, is double the amount of the check or 2 years imprisonment or both, ₹5,000 or imprisonment up to 1 year or both, no punishment since the parties went for compromise, none of these. say, under section 138, when the check is returned, what is the punishment? That is twice the amount of the check, or twice the amount of the check, or 2 years imprisonment, or both. That is a maximum punishment a metropolitan that is judge can give. What is the maximum punishment when the check is returned? So the maximum, if there is no compromise between the fellow went and filed a suit in the court. Okay, court case is going on. So finally, before the end of when the court case is ended, the judge will give an award, double the amount of the check, or that is 2 years imprisonment, or both. Suppose during the course of the judge, this one is argument is going on. If the parties come for a compromise, still the judge can give an order. What is the maximum award? He can give 1 year imprisonment, or 5,000 rupees, or both. So the question is, the punishment for drawer under section 138 of NI Act in the case of compromise between the parties, answer is B. Question number 103, answer is B. They come for a compromise. This is called the case of legal terms. This is 5,000 rupees, or imprisonment up to 1 year, or both. Okay. Question number 103, answer is B. You should not take answer A. Question number 104. A cross check has been paid across the counter, that is in cash, by bank B to the cashier representing bank A. Later, the drawer objects to the payment. Options are: bank B has made the payment in due course and hence it is not liable. Bank B, by paying a cross check in cash, has shown negligence and made liable. It is not a payment in due course, B and C. I will give an example. Let us assume Canara Bank is having a branch in a rural place. In that area, let us assume one cooperative bank branch is there. Okay. Though the cooperative bank branch is there, the cooperative bank branch, let us assume they are not participating in clearing, or they have only few branches, they are not participating clearing across the country. So your customer has given a check to me, L Jagannath. Again, your customer has given a check to me, L Jagannath, and your customer has crossed it. So when L Jagannath brings the check to you, you will tell, sir, if you have account, deposit in your account, or you go and deposit in the bank where you are having account. So where the customer is having the account, L Jagannath is having the account in the cooperative bank in your area, rural area. That cooperative bank is not having any branch or few branches, or they are not participating in clearing. That is possible. So in that case, it is a cross check. He went and deposited the check drop box in the cooperative bank in the same rural area. So since that bank is not participating in clearing, how that bank will collect the money from you and credit L Jagannath's account? So in the back of the check, they will put payee's account will be credited on realization. They will affix the stamp, and the manager or the officer who is authorized to do it, they will put the signature, and the cashier of the cooperative bank will bring to you. In that case, you can make the payment to him. Okay, even though it is a cross-check cash payment can be done across the counter to another bank under special circumstances. So it is a payment in due course. Okay, so question number 104, answer is A. A cross check has been paid across the counter in cash by bank B to the cashier representing bank A. Later, the drawer objects to the payment. Even though it is a cross check, when you make a payment to another bank on behalf of that is person, then it is continues to be only a payment in due course. Question number 104, answer is A. Question number 105. What is the maximum award an insurance ombudsman can give? 1 minute. Okay. So, question number 105. What is the maximum award an insurance ombudsman can give? So, banking ombudsman can give an award up to 20 lakhs, and he can also give an award for 1 lakh for that is mental agony, cost, etc. What is the maximum award an insurance ombudsman can give? On that day itself, I told you, the maximum award an insurance ombudsman can give is rupees 30 lakhs. For question number 105, answer is B. Question number 106. As per Consumer Protection Act 2019, The district commission shall have jurisdiction to entertain complaints where the value of goods and services paid as consideration does not exceed rupees. Friends, so there is your Consumer Protection Act is modified in 2019. So HO Circular 583/2020. All of you have to go through the HO Circular. Questions will be asked from that circular. So Consumer Protection Act underwent a modification in 2019. That is came out Gazette notification came only 2020. So that is given in the HO Circular 583/2020. So what it says, as per Consumer Protection Act 2019, the Consumer Protection Act has been, that is the forums under the Consumer Protection Act, names changed to Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission. Name of the Consumer Commission has been changed to Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission. They may ask the question. As per the amendment, the Consumer Commission or as District Commission, etc., the name has been changed into what? The Consumer Forum name has changed into Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission. You have District Consumer Redressal Commission, State Consumer Redressal Commission, National Consumer Redressal Commission. Earlier, that is District Commission, State Commission, National Commission. Now the name underwent as a change, District Consumer Redressal Commission, State Consumer Redressal Commission. The last one is National Consumer Redressal Commission. Now, that is the amount of award they can give up to, that is up to what extent they can look into, also underwent a change. So for the District Consumer Redressal Commission, the question is, so as per Consumer Protection Act 2019, sir, the district, yes? Question paper display. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay, so we are seeing question number 105. What is the maximum of, question number 106. As per Consumer Protection Act 2019, the District Commission shall have jurisdiction to entertain complaints where the value of goods and services paid as consideration does not exceed rupees dash. So the answer for the question is 100 lakhs. Earlier, the District Commission can entertain only up to 20 lakhs. Now, the District Consumer Redressal Commission can entertain disputes up to 100 lakhs. Then the State Commission, more than 100 lakhs, up to 10 crores. Okay, the new amendment. So as per the new amendment, questions will be there for all the levels. HO Circular 583/2020. District Consumer Redressal Commission can handle cases up to 100 lakhs. State above 100 lakhs up to 10 crores. Nation above 10 crores. Earlier it was up to 20 lakhs. Then 20 lakhs to 1 crore, more than 1 crore. The powers have been enhanced. So please refer the HO Circular for other details. Any other type of, within how many days that is appeal has to be made, to whom appeal has to be made, please refer 583/2020. Question will definitely come. Okay. So answer for question number 106 is 100 lakhs. Then bank holidays are declared under section dash of NI Act. We want to know if it is raining or something has happened, somebody has died. We want to know whether NI Act declaration has come. Bank holidays declared under NI Act. So what is the section of that NI Act under which bank holidays are declared? Section 25 of NI Act. Question number 107. Bank holidays are declared under section 25 of NI Act. Question number 107 under section 25 of NI Act. Question number 108. A and B, this is a garnish order. So I am just making you to recollect what we discussed maybe 2 days back. A and B have a joint account. Okay, joint account. A garnish order has been received in the name of A, which is not correct with regard to the above. So it is a negative question. Order is not applicable if it is jointly operated account. Order is not applicable if it is operated severally. Order is not applicable if it is farmer or survivor account. All are correct. What is the question? A and B having a joint account. A garnish order has been received in the name of A, which is not correct with regard to the above. What I told you with regard to garnish order, If the account is in the name of joint accounts, if in one person's name order is received, you cannot, that is, attach the money of the joint accounts in the name of the order which is in single name. The question is whether it is a jointly operated account or either or survivor account, farmer or what. So again I am repeating to friends, in a joint account, the money belongs to both the individuals. The either or survivor, number one or survivor, etc., are only operation conditions. You need not see what is the operation condition of the account. There is a joint account, garnish order is received in single account. So whatever may be the operation condition of the joint account, you cannot attach the joint account balance to the garnish order in the name of A. So what is correct? So which is not correct? Order is not applicable jointly name. It is correct. Order is not applicable if it is operated severally. Yes, that is also correct. Order is not applicable if it is a farmer or survivor account. That is also correct. In all the three cases, you cannot attach. Okay, what is the question which is not correct? All are correct. So you have to give the answer. None of them are not correct. All of them are correct. So for question number 108, the answer is D. Question number 108, the answer is D. Question number 109. Which one of the following is not correctly stated? So it is again a wrong question. Okay. Section 131 gives protection against conversion to the paying bank. Section 89, protection to paying bank for making payment of a materially altered check. Section 85(1), protection to the paying bank for making payment of an endorsed check. None of this. Which is not stated correctly, they are asking. What I told you, section 131. What is section 131? In section 131 of the Negotiable Instrument Act, protection is available for whom? Protection is available for the collecting banker. So what is the protection? So what are all the conditions should be fulfilled? So the check should have been collected for your customer. The customer should have an account with you. It should be a crossed account. The collection should have taken place without any negligence. In that case, it is even though some fraud has taken place, as a collecting banker, you will get protection under section 131. What is the question? Which one of the following is not correctly stated? Section 131 gives protection against conversion to the paying banker. That is wrong. Section 131 gives protection to the collecting banker. So for question number 109, which is not stated correctly, option is A. So the correct answer is section 131 gives protection against conversion to the collecting banker. So 109 answer is A. 110. A issues a check from his SB account. The balance is not sufficient. A has current account. Bank transferred the required balance from the current account to the SB account and passed the check as it is payable to income tax authorities. Bank is in order. Bank is not in order. Either of these, none of these. Friends, I will give an example. So you have deducted, so the customer has given a check in his account. So he is having another account, current account also. So when the check comes in the SB account, there is no sufficient balance. You have debited current account, transfer the money and pass the check. So later, when there is a debited, then later, when the customer is coming and asking why my balance in the current account is reduced, you are telling, sir, we passed a check you give for the SB account. You are not in order, because customer would have given the SB check for purposefully for return. You would have given the SB check purposefully for return, or if because of you debiting the current account, a check may come in the current account which you have to return because there is no sufficient balance. You will not permit TOD and pass the check. So if there is no balance in the account, until otherwise customer's concurrence is obtained either over phone or something like that, you should not debit his other account and pass the other check. Until otherwise he has the sweep in facility, or he has given a standing instruction to you, normally you will not get any protection if the customer says who asked you to pass the check. Okay, so answer is question number 110. So answer is bank transferred. So bank is in order, bank is not in order. Question number 110, bank is not in order. Question number 110, answer is B. Question number 111. Every banking company has to prepare its balance sheet. 111. Every banking company has to prepare its balance sheet and P&L account as stipulated in which act? It is as per section 29 of BR Act. Every banking company has to prepare its balance sheet and P&L account as per section 29 of Banking Regulation Act. These are all the questions taken from previous year exam questions, okay, for various levels. So every banking company has to prepare its balance sheet and P&L account as stipulated in section 29 of the Banking Regulation Act, 29. Question number 112. Who will be appointed by the court in the case of an insolvent to realize the assets, if any, belonging to the insolvent? That is, who court will appoint. What is the name of the person? The name of the person who is appointed to receive the money on behalf of the insolvent is called official receiver. He is called, for question number 112, the answer is, he is called official receiver or official assignee. So official receiver or official, that is assignee. Two options. In the case of a company under liquidation, the person appointed by the court to take care of the affairs of the company is called as what? Official liquidator. These questions frequently they are asking. An insolvent person, the person appointed by the court is called official receiver or official assignee. In the case of a company under liquidation, the person appointed by the court is called official liquidator. Here for question number 112, the correct answer is official assignee or official receiver. Okay, question number 113. Minor is defined in which act? Okay, they asked once the question. We are talking minor, major, etc. No. So minor is defined in which act? Minor is defined in the Majority Act 1875. The minor is defined in the Majority Act 1875, section 3 within brackets 1, section 3(1). Okay, minor, again I repeat for question number 113, minor is defined in the Majority Act 1875, section 3 within bracket 1. They are defined in the Majority Act 1875, section 3(1). Okay, question number 114. Incapacity of a minor to enter into a contract is defined in which section, which act? So minor is defined where? So minor cannot enter into a contract. No, it is defined where? The incapacity of a minor, question number 114 we are seeing. The incapacity of a minor to enter into contract is defined in section 68. It is defined in section 68 of Indian Contract Act 1872. So question number 114, again I repeat, incapacity of a minor to enter into contract is defined in section 68 of Indian Contract Act 1872. Okay, you know minor cannot enter into contract, but still banks permit minor to open an account and operate themselves. As per which act? We saw, no, section 26 of NI Act. Okay, so incapacity of a minor to enter into contract is defined in section 68 of Indian Contract Act 1872. 115. When Karta expires, you know, let us assume you are having HUF account, it is having a Karta and lot of co-parceners are there. Yesterday we saw Karta can delegate the authority to any one co-parcener, or Karta can delegate the authority to anybody outside the HUF also. Yesterday we saw some bad. The question is, when the Karta expires, the money in the SB account has to be given to whom? So whenever a person dies, what we will do? We will see whether a nomination is there. We will settle in favor of the nominee. Or if there is no nomination, we will settle the death claim. Isn't it? Two options are there. Here, when a Karta dies, there is no question of death claim settlement for that account. The senior most co-parcener in the account will automatically become the Karta. He will operate. If you want, he or she can close the account. You got my point? So in a HUF account, upon the death of the senior Karta, there is no question of settlement, because for HUF account, no nomination. For HUF account, there is no nomination. There is no concept of legal heirs over there. When a Karta dies in an HUF account, the money will be given to the senior most co-parcener. He will be permitted to operate the account, or she will be permitted to operate the account. If he or she wants, they can close the account. Okay, so when the Karta expires, the question was asked last time. When the Karta expires, the money in the SB account has to be given to. So all co-parceners, legal heirs of Karta, nominee, there is no concept of nominee, senior most co-parcener who becomes Karta. For question number 115, answer is D. For question number 115, answer is D. Question number 116. In respect of a company, charge need not be registered with the registrar of company for a pledge of immovable property, for a pledge of immovable property, hypothecation of machinery, assignment of book debt, guarantee. You know, there are various types of charges. What are they? Mortgage, then assignment, then hypothecation, pledge, lien. There are 5 types of charges which we saw when we were discussing test paper number 2. Okay, where they are defined: Transfer of Property Act, it is SARFAESI Act, Indian Contract Act, etc., we saw. So we also saw, when we saw the company's account, when a loan is given to a company, then charge to be registered with the registrar of companies within 30 days with the registrar of companies where the registration office of the company is situated. We also saw it is a duty of the company to register the charges. If it is not, then security creditor, they themselves can also register the charges. In the slide also, everything is there for test paper number 2. The question is whether for all types of charges for a loan given to a company, whether charge has to be created with the register of companies. In the case of non-fund based limits, what are all non-fund based limits? LC, guarantee, etc. We saw, no, they are all called contingent liabilities. For contingent liabilities, charge need not be registered with the register of companies. The Companies Act amended in 2013. At that time, they told earlier for charge for pledge, charge for lien, assignment also need not be registered. But when the Companies Act amended in 2013, they told all charges to be registered. Suppose for a loan given for a non-fund based limit like LCs or guarantees, in that case, charge need not be registered. So for question number 116, answer is D, guarantee. Question number 117. Mr. A has SB account in his name and he nominates his minor son as nominee for this SB account. Okay, who is having SB account? A. Who is nominee for that account? His son. He has made his son as the nominee. So A has an SB account. He nominated his son as the nominee for that SB account. Since nominee is a minor, he has to appoint another major person on behalf of the nominee. You know, whenever the nominee is a minor, you will ask another person who will be acting, that is to receive the money if something goes wrong to the account holder, and when the nominee still continues to be a minor. So we used to get, okay, another person. Then so another person, okay. So Mr. A has Mr. A has SB account in his name and he nominates his minor son as nominee for this SB account. Since nominee is a major, he has to appoint another major person on behalf of the nominee. 117. Who can be appointed? Mother, close blood relative, any person, none of these. See, on behalf of the nominee, any person can be appointed by the account holder. It is not necessary only the legal heirs or other guardians or close relatives, etc., to be made as a person on behalf of the minor. So for question number 117, answer is any person. Question number 117, answer is any person. Answer is C. Question number 118. Articles of association of company. Articles of, I told you there are 2 documents: Memorandum of Association and Articles of Association. Memorandum of Association is like your, that is internet, www.canarabank.com. That is Articles of Association is like your intranet, that is CanNet. The question is, Articles of Association of a company contains borrowing powers of board of directors of the company, borrowing powers of the company, both A and B, none of these. You always, this question they are asking, keep in mind, the Articles of Association of a company gives the borrowing powers of the board of directors of the company. It is an internal document. The power of your CGM, the power for your DGM CAC, or the power for the branch in charge. These things are given where in your CanNet. So this is given in the case of Articles of Association. The borrowing powers of the board of directors is given in the Articles of Association. What is given in the Memorandum of Association? Borrowing powers of the company is giving in the Memorandum of Association. So question number 118, the borrowing powers of the board of directors directors of the company is given in the articles of association. 118, answer is A. 119, a document is defined in which act? So we see document, no, what document to be taken, we saw WhatsApp. So that document, this document, where the document is defined, the document is defined in Indian Evidence Act. So the question number that is 119, the answer is a document is defined in Indian Evidence Act, ACT. The C is missing here. So question number 119, the answer is a document is defined in Indian Evidence Act. So these questions, because they make a difficult question, they make a simple question, a mixed type of questions will come. All these simple questions, you should be able to score the mark. Okay, a document is defined in the Indian Evidence Act. Then question number 120, contactless payment through card can be made by placing the card at close proximity to the device using near field communication with a maximum distance of, where it is there in your debit card policy, it is there. Okay, so what is that contactless payment? So you are going to a member establishment, so you are purchasing something, you are giving the card. He is not swiping the card and he is not asking you to put the PIN number. Just he shows the card across the there is a POS, and your account is debited, you are getting an SMS, he gives you the money. The charge slip comes to him, isn't it? This is called contactless cards. Okay, in our debit card also the facility is there. So up to what amount the contactless card transactions can be done? Maximum 2,000 rupees. In a day, for maximum 2,000 rupees, contactless card transaction can be done. Okay, so he shows the card, to the swiping machine. What is the distance between the swiping machine and the card he should have? The distance should not be more than 4 centimeters. Okay, this question they ask for Bank of India. So you should know these things also. That is, contactless payment through card can be made by placing the card at close proximity to the device using near field communication with a maximum distance of 4 centimeters. For question number 120, answer is 4 centimeters. Question number 121. A duplicate DD issued by the bank to the purchaser after obtaining indemnity bond. Please read the question. A duplicate DD issued by the bank to the purchaser after obtaining indemnity bond. The relationship between the bank and the purchaser. Okay, debtor, creditor, trustee, beneficiary, indemnifier, indemnity holder, and indemnifier. So when a duplicate deed is purchased, so the customer is asked to give a, that is in the indemnity bond. In that case, bank is called the indemnity holder and the customer is called the indemnifier. What is indemnifier? In case of loss anything, I will indemnify the bank. That is what the indemnity bond says. Okay. For question number 121, when a duplicate is deed or anything based on an indemnity bond, anything duplicate deposit, suppose it ask the question, a duplicate deposit receipt is issued by the bank, okay, based on the indemnity given by the customer. So with respect to this indemnity bond, what is the relationship between the bank and the customer? Bank is called the indemnity holder and the customer is called the indemnifier. This question was asked sometime back. Okay, here for question number 121, answer is D. Anything done based on the indemnity, the person who is holding the indemnity bond is called the indemnity holder, and the person who has undertaken that I will make the payment in case of that is in case something goes wrong, he is called the indemnifier. Question number 121, answer is D. Question number 122. Read the question very carefully. Who can open a basic savings bank deposit account, BSBDA? Basic savings bank deposit account, all of our, isn't it? BSBDA account in a bank with certain conditions are there for opening a BSBDA account. Okay, that is one. Who can open? Who do not have any ID or address proof? Whose annual income is less than 50,000? Any person in jail? None of these. So friends, for the question number 122, the answer is none of these. Okay, who can open a BSBD account? Answer is for the question is none of these. What is the correct answer? Anybody can open a BSBD account. Okay, no restriction that he should open, he should not open, but certain conditions are there. Let us see the power, because RBI has amended the conditions last year. So questions may be asked. So RBI has come out with a guideline. So question will be asked over there. So let us see. Okay, BSBD accounts. There. Okay. So a BSBD account is a fully KYC compliant account. Don't be under the impression BSBD accounts are not fully KYC compliant accounts. Only the small accounts are not fully KYC compliant account. There is a difference between a small SB account and BSBD account. Product codes are different. 127 and one thing something else. Okay, that is the BSBD accounts are fully KYC compliant accounts. You cannot open the BSBD accounts without fully undergoing the KYC guidelines given by your bank. So what are all the conditions? The condition is there is no minimum balance charges. There is no question of any minimum balance charges. You can deposit any amount of money in that account or any number of times without any charges. Now you have fixed certain charges, no, 50,000, 3 times in a month, etc. Charges will be debited for the SB account, no. In the case of a BSBD account, there is no minimum balance charges. It is a fully KYC compliant account. Any amount can be deposited, any number of times can be deposited, checks can be deposited. What is a restriction? Restriction is only, so that is maximum withdrawals in a month is only 4. Okay, so I have put minimum, sorry. The maximum withdrawals is only 4 in a month, including ATM withdrawal. Beyond that, if you want, you can charge. But you should not insist on the minimum balance. So the account should never have a minimum balance. There are certain things are given. For example, maximum withdrawal 4 free of charge. If you want to, if the customer wants 50 withdrawal, you can charge him, but you should not insist on that is minimum balance. So ATM cum debit card to be issued freely to the customer. Following are free of charges and no minimum balance requirement. ATM card and ATM debit card has to be issued. You will not charge 150 rupees with GST, etc., etc. There are no charges for the ATM and debit. These are all the features of your BSBD account. Don't be under the impression the BSBD account is not a fully compliant account. It is a KYC fully compliant account. Anybody can open that account. But so this is one condition. The next few conditions also we see. Any other value-added services, including additional checkbooks, can be provided, which or may not be. So, maximum 4 withdrawals in a month. How many checkleaves you will give? 50 checkleaves free of cost. So in a month 4, there are 12 months, 12 into 4, 48. You cannot give 48 checkleaves, you will give 50 checkleaves. So 50 checkleaves to be given free of cost. If customer wants another checkbook, you can charge or you need not charge, but you don't insist on the minimum balance. Then, so that is, the thing is, whatever additional facility you want, you can give other than the minimum facility, but charging, that is, can be there or need not be there, but no minimum balance. What is other condition? The customer who wants to open a BSBD account should not have any other account, any other SB account with you. You should not have any other SB account with you. If he's having any other SB account with you, that account should be closed within 30 days. Okay, no other SB account in the bank. If it exists, it has to be closed within next 30 days. That is condition. Then he should also give a declaration at the time of opening the BSBD account that he is not having any other BSBD account with any bank in India. Okay, so these are all the conditions. So now let us see the question. Who can open a basic savings bank deposit account? So answer is none of this. Anybody can open. Anybody can open. It is a fully KYC compliant account. Keep that in mind. Question number 123. B gives a check for collection to his banker. Bank collects the check, but before credit to B's account, the bank fails. What happened to bank fails? So like yesterday, what happened to Lakshmi Vilas Bank? That is called bank failing. Okay. So B gives a check for collection to his banker. Before the bank collects the check, but before crediting the B's account, the bank fails. Okay, so the relationship between B and the bank in this case. So in this particular case, before crediting to the customer account, the bank fails. In this case, the customer, what is the relationship? A relation between B and the bank. In this case, B is the beneficiary and the bank is the trustee. It is not agent-principal relationship. So you are collected. Before crediting to the customer account, the bank becomes insolvent. Okay, in that case, the customer is called the beneficiary and the bank is called the trustee. So for question number 123, answer is D. Okay, because successfully finished that is 3 question papers. Now we will go to that is SARFAESI Act. So I will go through the PowerPoint presentation with explanation wherever is required. Then let us go to the questions. Okay, friends. So what is SARFAESI Act? Securitization and Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest Act 2002. What it gives to the bank? It empowers the bank to enforce the securities and realize the dues without intervention of the court. So SARFAESI Act gives power to the banks to, that is, realize the securities and credit to the, that is, loan accounts without intervention of the court. Okay, very important. Then which are all this? The heading is exempted NPA. So for to go in a SARFAESI, the account should necessarily be an NPA account. Keep that in mind. So many detailed discussions are there. Even for 3 to 4 questions will be asked from that. Where it is available, this is available in your HO circular 268/2020, recovery policy of Canara Bank in the amalgamated entity. So all these things, SARFAESI Act detailed guidelines are given in your HO circular 268/2020, 3 to 4. Because once you become scale 4, you will become the authorized officers of the bank in Canara Bank as on date. So you should be thorough with the policy. Okay. Exempted NPA accounts under the SARFAESI Act. Which are all the accounts? So all accounts should be NPA before going under the SARFAESI. Because of overdue, we cannot go under SARFAESI. To go under SARFAESI action, the account should have been recalled and it should have been classified as NPA. Then only you can go. Then, which are all the accounts, even though they are NPAs, you cannot go under SARFAESI. Suppose if the liability in the account is 1 lakh or below 1 lakh, including 1 lakh. So if the liability in the account is 1 lakh or below 1 lakh, you cannot go under SARFAESI Act. That point you should know. Again, I repeat, which are all the, so all accounts should be NPA accounts. What SARFAESI Act gives to banks? SARFAESI Act gives powers to the bank to enforce the security without the intervention of the court. That is one advantage. Act is 2002, subsequently amended. Latest amendment is 2016. Okay, then exempted accounts and NPA. If the liability in the account is 1 lakh or below 1 lakh, you cannot proceed under SARFAESI, even if it is an NPA account. You have to file a suit in the civil court. Then security interest created in agricultural land. If you have put through an EMT of agricultural land, you cannot enforce that agricultural land under the SARFAESI Act. My question is whether SARFAESI registration can be done for agricultural land. So in Canara Bank, SARFAESI registration need not be done for agricultural land. But as per the SARFAESI Act, so as per that is SARFAESI, you can do SARFAESI registration even for agricultural land. If you go and visit the SARFAESI site, you will come to know. But in our bank, we are not insisting on SARFAESI registration for agricultural land because agricultural lands cannot be brought under SARFAESI Act. Okay, keep that in mind. If that question of agriculture lands can be, SARFAESI registration can be done. Options A, B, C. Don't be under the impression that agriculture land SARFAESI registration cannot be done. It can be done, but our guidelines says you need not be done because it is not covered under SARFAESI. Okay. Security interest created in agriculture land is an exempted category. You cannot bring under SARFAESI. If you are given a loan against the pledge, if you are given a loan against assignment, what is assignment? Actionable claims. We saw no assignment, LIC policy, NSC, book debts, etc. Assignment. Then lien. What is lien? Paper securities like shares, debentures, etc. What is pledge? Gold ornaments. If the loan is given taking into account pledge or assignment or lien, you cannot bring the loan under SARFAESI Act, even though the liability is above 1 lakh, the account is NPA. Then all other. What is other one? Mortgage and hypothecation. Mortgage and hypothecation can be brought under SARFAESI. Then, so was what I told you first point, if the liability is 1 lakh and below 1 lakh, you cannot go under SARFAESI. In some cases, even when the liability is, that is, you can claim liability up to 1 lakh, you cannot go under SARFAESI. Above 1 lakh, you can go in SARFAESI. In some cases, even when the liability is above 1 lakh, you cannot go under SARFAESI. For example, you are given a housing loan, let us assume. Housing loan, 150 lakhs you are given. So, sorry, 100 lakhs, let us assume you are given a housing loan. So, along with EMI, let us assume the borrower has to pay 150 lakhs. You have calculated interest, etc. So, 100 lakhs is the housing loan. Along with interest, the borrower is supposed to pay 150 lakhs. So let us assume he has paid already 80% of the 150 lakhs. How much it is coming? 80% is coming to 120 lakhs. How much loan you are given? 100 lakhs. Along with interest, how much he has to pay? 150. That was calculated. Let us assume he has paid already more than 80% of the due from him. What is 80% of the 150 lakhs? That is 120 lakhs. Let us assume he has paid already 130 lakhs. He has paid more than 80%. So what is the liability difference? 20 lakhs because 150 lakhs. So 30 lakhs, that is 30 has already paid 20 lakhs in the liability. Even then, you cannot go under SARFAESI. Even though the first sentence says, if the liability is above 1 lakh, you can go under SARFAESI. In certain cases, even when the liability is above 1 lakh, you cannot go under SARFAESI provided the amount due is less than 20% of the amount of principal and interest. In that case, even though it is more than 1 lakh, you cannot go under SARFAESI, time bound debts. If AOD is not available, you cannot go under SARFAESI. Okay, and similarly, if the SARFAESI registration is not done, you cannot proceed under SARFAESI. For what all SARFAESI registration is there to be done? Mortgage as well as for hypothecation. Hypothecation of stocks, whichever hypothecation agreement is taking, hypothecation of vehicle, hypothecation of machinery, you are taking maybe hypothecation of book debts also. You are not going for assignment. Even if you are taking hypothecation of book debts, normally as per law, hypothecation book debts will be coming under assignment. Suppose if you are taking due to your internal guidelines, hypothecation of book debts, so hypothecation of book debts also, movables also can be brought under SARFAESI, but you should have done SARFAESI registration. When SARFAESI registration has to be done, as per section 26 of that is SARFAESI Act 2002, which is included on 1st January 2020, SARFAESI registration to be done immediately on the date of opening the loan. There is no concept of 30 days, 35 days earlier. That permission 30 days, 30 to 60 days, beyond 60 days, somebody's permission, everything is withdrawn now. So within immediately on opening the loan, you have to do the SARFAESI registration, because tomorrow if somebody does the SARFAESI registration, they will get the priority as compared to you. The 30 days is removed. The 30 days is only for registration of charge in the case of a company's account. Okay, so these are all the cases where that is accounts cannot be brought under SARFAESI. Liability is less than 1 lakh. So that is including, or that is liability is 1 lakh or below 1 lakh, you cannot bring. Above 1 lakh, you can bring. However, that also if you have already paid 80%, you cannot bring under SARFAESI. Pledge assignment lien, security interest created in agriculture land, time bound debts, you cannot go under SARFAESI. The AOD is not there, you cannot book him under SARFAESI. You will lose in the court. SARFAESI registration is not done. Wherever required to be done, hypothecation SARFAESI registration to be done, a mortgage SARFAESI registration to be done. All these SARFAESI registration to be done on the date of opening the loan. Please don't be under the impression you have 30 days time, that and all stands withdrawn now. Okay, sir, this slide is very important. Then next slide. So this question they may ask. So under which section of the SARFAESI Act demand notice will be issued? So the SARFAESI is for both movable and immovable. So immovable by means of hypothecation, movable by means of hypothecation wherever charge is created. Immovable by means of mortgage. Okay, movable hypothecation and then immovable by mortgage. So that is demand notice to be issued by the bank. So the bank in the SARFAESI Act is called the secured creditor, because you are having a security against that you have given the loan. So a bank or any financial institution under SARFAESI Act is called the secured creditor. Okay, the demand notice to be issued under section 13(2) of the SARFAESI Act 2002. They are asking the question. Okay, demand notice. A demand notice will be issued by the secured creditor to whom all the demand notice to be issued. The demand notice to be issued to your borrower. The demand notice to be issued to the guarantor. The demand notice to be issued to the mortgager. What is the difference between your borrower and the mortgager? If the property belongs to the borrower, then there is no separate mortgager. If a third party property is taken for the loan, then the mortgager and borrower will be different. Am I correct, sir? Okay. So demand notice to be issued to your borrower. Demand notice to be issued to your guarantor. Demand notice to be issued to the mortgager also, wherever mortgagers are there. So this is given in section 13(2) of SARFAESI Act 2002. Then possession notice. Then when we go inside, so first let us see under which section they are given. Questions will be asked. Possession notice for movable assets, it is as per section 13(4) rule 4. These numbers by heart you should know. Immovable, possession notice for immovable will be given under section 13(4) rule number 8. Then sale notice. So I will give the how it does. We'll go and we'll see the next slide. So sale notice for movable, section 13(4) rule number 6. Sale notice for movable, section 13(4) rule 8. This is one and the same for possession notice and sale notice for immovable. It is 13(4) rule 8, rule 8. For movable only, possession is section 13(4) rule 4, section 13(4) rule 6. For both movable and immovable, the demand notice is section 13(2) of the SARFAESI Act 2002. They will ask that section. Under which section the demand notice to be issued. Okay, sir. Let us see the next slide. Sorry. Okay, good. Then, so there is an officer called authorized officer in a bank, in any financial institution, who only can handle the cases of the SARFAESI Act. Similarly, in the SARFAESI Act, valuation will be given not by your panel valuers. The valuation will be given by the valuers called SARFAESI approved panel valuers. All your panel valuers are not SARFAESI approved panel valuers. There are certain qualifications the SARFAESI approved panel valuer should have. So that is, out of the panel valuers, before getting the valuation to sell a property, you have to get from a R&L section who are all the SARFAESI approved valuer. Okay, they only can give the valuation. Keep that in mind. Don't go and take a that is valuation from a ordinary valuer. Then later borrower will fix us. Okay, so a lot of problems will take place. So vigilance will come. Then authorized officer. Who is an authorized officer? As per that is SARFAESI Act 2002. Who is the authorized officer? The authorized officer is a person who should not be less than the rank of scale 4 and above, and it has to be decided by the bank's board of directors. So if the bank's board of directors says scale 5 and above only we are going to have authorized officers, then scale 5 and only will be authorized officers. But what the Act says scale 4 and above, that is can be authorized officers. But who can be? So the minimum is scale 4 and above. Below that it cannot come. So bank can decide whether it is scale 4 or scale 5 or scale 6 or scale 7. In Canara Bank today, that is the bank's board has decided all scale 4 and above officers are the authorized officers for handling the SARFAESI case. Authorized officer is supposed to issue the demand notice. What is the demand notice? He will show the borrower has not paid the money. All the issues, legal notice is issued. So money is not paid. You are recall the advance. Advance has become NPA. The moment advance has become NPA, if you are having a security, and then it is if you can impose the SARFAESI Act, immediately you have to proceed. So the demand notice as per section 13(2), the format is there. You have to prepare the demand notice. So wherever it is required, it has to be vetted by the panel advocate. Okay, if you find it difficult, panel advocate will vet you with all the documents. Then the authorized officer will issue the demand notice. To whom all we issue? You have to issue to the borrower, guarantor, and mortgager to clear the dues within 60 days. So authorized officer will issue the demand notice. As per the demand notice, he will say, these are all the due. You have to clear it within 60 days from the date of this notice. If it is not cleared, if it is the loan is not repaid, then what the bank can do? Bank can exercise the following rights. What are all the rights? Bank can take possession of the property. Okay, take over the management, appoint any person to manage the asset, demand the amount due to the borrower from any person. Friends, don't be under the impression the moment you take possession under the SARFAESI Act, you have to sell the item only. For example, the borrower may be a willful defaulter. The unit may be running very beautifully. He may be creating a lot of income from that, but he is not repaying. He is a willful defaulter. You can take over the management of that unit under your possession. Not necessarily you have to dismantle and sell everything. Under the SARFAESI Act, they may ask, what are all the powers available to the secured creditor? Options A, B, C, D. Don't be under the impression under SARFAESI Act, the item should be sold and your loan to be adjusted. Generally, we do it, isn't it? But you can take possession, you can take over the management of that your borrower, appoint any person to manager to appoint the asset, he will do everything and the money will come to your account. Demand the amount. Suppose if somebody has to give money to the borrower, you can ask that other person to give the money to your loan account instead of giving to the borrower. These things can be done under the SARFAESI that you will mention under the SARFAESI demand notice. Within 60 days, if you are not clearing the dues, bank will take possession of the property and these all the things will be done by the bank. Okay, that aspect you should know. Then how the notice to be sent? The notice to be sent by registered acknowledgement due, speed post acknowledgement due, or fax or mail acknowledgement. Acknowledgement to be preserved, friends. You have to ensure that the acknowledgement is signed by your borrower. That is very, very important. Tomorrow he may deny in the court. So if the acknowledgement is not received, if the acknowledgement is not signed by your borrower, which does not tally with your loan documents, then you have to publish in the newspaper the demand notice. You have to publish in 2 newspapers. One is in English, another one is in the vernacular language. You have to publish this demand notice. Demand notice also to be published when you have not got the acknowledgement, or you have got the acknowledgement somebody signed by somebody, either borrower or mortgager or guarantor. You have to publish the sale notice in the newspaper. See, that's what I told. If the borrower does not acknowledge, publish in 2 leading newspapers. One is vernacular, another is English. So in the case of a consortium accounts, 4 or 5 banks are there. So in one bank, the account will be NPA. In another bank, it will not be NPA. So in the consortium accounts, the NPA concept is, in one bank, it can be NPA. In another bank, it did not be NPA. There is no concept of customer ID with regard to consortium accounts or even multiple banking, whatever may be the arrangement you are having. In one bank, the account will be standard asset. In other bank, the account will be NPA. In that case, how to proceed under SARFAESI? Let us assume in your bank, the account is NPA. So the lead bank is least bothered. So because he is getting the money, he is adjusting to his account. So, but in your bank, 100 crores is becoming NPA. What you have to do? You can issue SARFAESI notice if the undue delay from the lead bank. You can issue the demand notice, section 13(2). But before taking possession or before selling the property, then consent to be required to be obtained from the members of the consortium. I have mentioned here, consortium accounts. Lead bank or other bank, member bank, can initiate, provided the bank representing 60% of the amount outstanding agree for the same. This they are asking, no 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. Under consortium account, see, for issuing demand notice, this agreement is not required. For issuing a demand notice, if the lead bank is not giving you permission, lot of delay is taking place, you can issue demand notice under section 13(2) for your borrower. On the other hand, before taking possession, before issuing the possession notice, before issuing the sale notice, you have to see among the consortium members, 60% of the members are amounting to aggregating 60% of the amount due is acceptable the same. For example, let us assume 4 consortium members. One is having 20 crores. Another is having, that is 50 crores. How much it has come? 50, 100 crores total, let us assume. One is having 20, another is having 50. Okay, 50 plus 20, 70, remaining 13. Another 2 is having 15, 15. 20, 50, 15, 15. So what do you mean by 60% amount outstanding? So 50 plus 20 fellow or 50 plus 15 fellow, any two agreeing amounting to that is more than 60% of the total liability. If they agree, you can issue possession notice, you can take the property and you can sell it. Okay, these things are available in the HO Circular 268/2020. So for consortium accounts, lead banks or other member bank can initiate, provided the bank representing 60% the amount outstanding agree for the same. Earlier, it was 60% of the amount amount outstanding and numbers also that has been removed. So you should understand this figure, 60% of the amount outstanding. The member should agree for that. For issuing demand notice, this condition is not required. When a lead bank that is due, it takes a lot of delay to give you permission. You can issue the demand notice. Okay, no issue. Then after issuing the demand notice, you are supposed to immediately file a caveat application in DRT code. Friends, what is the, before going here, I want to ask you one question. All of you may be aware. So for filing suit in DRT, what is the cutoff amount? Earlier it was 10 lakhs and above. Now it is 20 lakhs and above. Okay. For filing suit in a DRT, normally it is 20 lakhs and above. But with regard to SARFAESI, any amount you have to go only to the DRT code. There is no question of 20 lakhs, 10 lakhs, etc. If you are initiated a proceeding under SARFAESI, either the borrower or the bank has to approach only the DRT court of the jurisdiction. So for under SARFAESI, above 1 lakh, you will go under SARFAESI, isn't it? What is the maximum amount, whatever may be the amount. So once you issue the SARFAESI notice, the borrower can approach only the DRT court, even if the liability is 5 lakhs, even if the liability is 10 lakhs. It is not necessary 20 lakhs. 20 lakhs is only filing a suit for non-SARFAESI cases in the DRT court. Okay, keep that in mind. The moment you issue the demand notice, where the borrower will go? The borrower will go to the DRT court. So without your knowledge, he will go and he will get a stay application for not proceeding under the SARFAESI. What the moment you apply that is your demand notice, you have to immediately file through the panel advocate a caveat application in the DRT court. What is that caveat application? You will inform the DRT stating that we, Canara Bank, issued a demand notice that is against this fellow so and so. A copy of the notice is attached. He will come to you for getting a stay order. If he comes to you without calling us and discussing with us, please do not give the stay order to the borrower. 1 minute, sir. 1 minute. Sorry. So you have to file the caveat application without forgetting. Suppose if you don't file the caveat application, he will go to the DRT court. DRT will issue a stay order without consulting you. So that is, applying a caveat application is very important in the DRT action. Sorry, in the SARFAESI action. Then after issuing the demand notice, you have to wait for 60 days before proceeding. How many days you have to wait? You have to wait for 60 days before proceeding. In between, if the borrower sends you a letter, sir, I will pay the amount after 1 month. Or he may say, sir, your rate of interest, I want to know. Sir, please give me the part sheet. Anything if the borrower sends to you after you issue the demand notice, you have to immediately reply to the borrower within 15 days of the receipt of the letter in your office. If you do not do it, whatever SARFAESI action you can take, the DRT court will say, no, you are wrong. Again, from beginning, you have to start the entire exercise. Okay, so compliance to be replied within 15 days. That is again the last point. So 160, so you issued demand notice. You told what all the things you are going to do. The borrower is least bothered. He has sent you a letter. You also reply to the borrower. Then 60 days is over. After 60 days, you have to go and the authorized officer will go and take possession of the property. Okay, so this is with regard to possession of the property. Authorized officer will go and take possession of the property. Then, so here this slide is very important. Questions they are asking. You are issued a demand notice. The borrower, where he can go, irrespective of the liability, he will go to a DRT court. For SARFAESI action, liability is not the criteria to approach the DRT court. Only in normal cases, approaching DRT court, it is 20 lakhs and above. So the borrower will approach the DRT court. So when he so the Canara Bank has issued a demand notice to me, please issue a stay order, they are wrong. So within how many days he has to go to the DRT court? Within 45 days of your demand notice. This question they are asking. Within how many days the borrower will approach the DRT court in the case of a SARFAESI action? The borrower has to approach the DRT court within 45 days of the demand notice under the SARFAESI. Okay, suppose DRT says, no, Canara Bank only is correct, you are wrong. He is issuing this much money you have to pay to the Canara Bank. So the borrower is not satisfied with the order of the DRT. Then he has to approach to whom? He has to approach the Debt Recovery Appellant Tribunal, DRAT. So he has to approach the next authority. The authority is called the Debt Recovery Appellant Tribunal within 30 days of the DRT order. First, when he goes to the DRT, stating that Canara Bank is not wrong, give me a stay order. So at that time, he need not deposit any money. Okay, Canara Bank has demanded 1 crore from me, sir. Canara Bank is wrong, sir. Lot of mistakes they have done. So please give a stay order. At that time, he need not deposit any money with the court. Only stamp paper he has to fill up. He will file a case with the Canara Bank against Canara Bank. Within how many days he has to do? Within 45 days. So if DRT says, no, Canara Bank is correct, you have to pay 1 crore. He is also agreeing with the amount you demanded. So if he is not satisfied, then he will go to DRAT. Who is the DRAT? Debt Recovery Appellant Tribunal. Within how many days you have to go? 30 days from the DRT order, he has to go. But at that time, he has to deposit 50% of the amount ordered by DRT. How much DRT told? 1 crore. Canara Bank is correct. 1 crore you have to pay. No. When he is going and applying to DRAT, he has to take a DD favoring Canara Bank for 50%, that is 50 lakhs, and deposit with the DRAT. Then only DRAT will take the file. Okay, this is very, very important. This is amendment in 2016. So within 30 days, he has to appeal go before the DRAT by depositing 50% of the amount. How much is DRT has ordered? 1 crore. 50% of the amount is 50 lakhs. Suppose borrower says to the DRAT, sir, I do not have 50 lakhs, sir. Please reduce to some amount. DRAT can reduce it to 25%. At least without 25 lakhs, the appeal will not be touched. Friends, earlier, DRAT can reduce it to even to up to 0%. Without depositing any money, this fellow can go for appeal. But in 2016, it is told 50% he has to deposit, but DRAT can reduce it to 25%. What we saw? Issuing demand notice, waiting up to 60 days. So, and during 60 days, if you get any request letter from the borrower, you have to immediately reply to the borrower, which are all the cases eligible for SARFAESI, which are all the cases not eligible for SARFAESI. So, in the case of a consortium account, when to proceed SARFAESI, when to take possession, when to sell. Okay, 60% of the borrowers for demand notice. So, there is no need. If the lead bank is delaying, you can issue the demand notice without the 60% consent. Okay, sir. So then we saw the time limit for borrower approaching the DRT with regard to your SARFAESI demand notice. Okay, very, very important, these things. Next one. So movable, let us not see, because movable, and you can go through it. Let us see immovable. Okay, then okay, send the register of fixed property action. So what you will do? You waited for 60 days. Nothing has happened. So the borrower has not that is paid any money, etc., etc. You have to issue the possession notice to the borrower, guarantor, and mortgager. So issue the possession notice and you send it by registered port acknowledgement. If there is no acknowledgement from the borrower, you have to publish in the newspaper, again like the demand notice. If there is no acknowledgement for the possession notice, you have to publish in the newspaper, leading newspaper. Then you have to affix the possession notice in the property. Okay, you have to affix the possession notice, actual possession notice in the property. Friends, there are two types of possession. One is actual possession and symbolic possession. What is actual possession and symbolic possession? Actual possession, the borrower locks the property and gives the key to you. You have taken the possession. Then what is symbolic? When you go there, somebody is living. He has given lease to the property and he went to somewhere. Or he has locked it and he has gone there. So you should not take possession of the property with force. The banking institutions or financial institutions should not take possession of the property with force. You have to take a symbolic possession. What do you mean by symbolic possession? Affix the possession notice on the property, take sufficient photographs. Okay, along with the authorized officer and the branch people. After, suppose today you are taking possession, that is called a symbolic possession. Actual possession, key will be given to you. Whatever may be the types of possession, what you have to do after taking possession within 7 days, you have to publish in the newspaper stating that we have taken possession of the property. This belongs to Canara Bank. Trespassers are not permitted. With that wording, the possession notice has to be published in the 2 local newspapers. Within how many days? Within 7 days. Publish into after taking possession, you have to publish it that is Canara Bank has taken possession of the property within how many days? Within 7 days of taking possession of the property, either symbolic or actual. Suppose you are taken only symbolic possession, but you want actual possession. What you will do? If you want an actual possession in 2016, when the SARFAESI Act is amended, if you want an actual possession, then you have to approach the district magistrate or chief metropolitan magistrate. That question they are asking. If the bank wants the actual possession, because bank is not able to take a symbol actual possession due to various reasons, if the bank wants an actual possession, so as per section 14 of the SARFAESI Act, keep these acts in mind. As per section 14 of the SARFAESI Act, the district magistrate or the chief metropolitan magistrate will give an order to the police authorities. Police authority will come, evict the people living there and hand over the key to you. Within how many days they will do? Within 30 days of you applying with the district magistrate or chief metropolitan magistrate, this action will be taken by the CMM or DM, district magistrate or chief metropolitan magistrate. These questions they are asking. Under which section? Section 14 of the SARFAESI Act amendment in 2016. For taking actual possession, if you are not able to give the actual possession, take the actual possession. So the possession notice has to be published in the 2 leading newspapers within 7 days of taking possession. You are taken possession, then you have to obtain the valuation for the property. Okay, you have to get valuation for the property. From whom you will get the valuation? From the SARFAESI approved panel valuer. All panel valuers are not SARFAESI approved panel valuers. There are separate qualifications they are having. Some of them are SARFAESI approved panel valuer. Get a clarity from your legal department. Okay, then next. So here very important, you see, this also question they are asking. If the property value is more than 5 crores, 2 valuations to be obtained from the SARFAESI approved valuer. We saw in the question paper number 1 or 2, no, when the value of the property is 10 crores and above, when the value of the property is 10 crores and above, 2 valuation to be taken before sanctioning a loan. Isn't it? When the value of the property is 10 crores and above, 2 valuation to be taken before sanctioning the loan. Which valuation will take? List value. Here, you have to take the valuation if the valuation of the property is 5 crores and above from 2 SARFAESI valuers. Okay, so you'll take the valuation. Then here, which valuation you will take? Whichever the amount is higher. You cannot go for the lesser amount because borrower's money, no. So here, so the valuation to be taken from SARFAESI approved valuer. If the value of the property is 5 crores and above, then out of the 2, whichever is giving the higher valuation, you have to go for fixing the reserve price. Okay, then who is the authority to fix the reserve? What is the reserve price? This is the minimum amount we want to sell the property. That is called the reserve price. Who is the authority to fix the reserve price? In the case of the branch sanction, RO is the next higher authority. So in the case of some branches directly coming and CO, they are the authorities for fixing the reserve price. You have to get the price fixed through the appropriate by getting valuation from 2 SARFAESI approved valuers for when the property is 5 crores and above. If it is less than 5 crores, 1 SARFAESI approved panel approval is sufficient. Then everything is over. Everything is over. Valuation is obtained. You have taken possession. You are issued public notice within 7 days of taking possession. Valuation is also ready. Immediately, you have to issue the sale notice. Do not wait for 30 days for issuing the sale notice. You have taken possession. You are published in the newspaper within 7 days of taking possession. Valuation is also taken. So the reserve price is also fixed by the next higher authority. Immediately issue the sale notice to all the people, that is either by registered post, whatever the mode we have told earlier. If they are not acknowledged the sale notice, again publish the sale notice in the two newspapers. So what is the time? So for possession notice, after issuing the demand notice for taking possession, you have to wait for 60 days. In the case of sale, after taking possession, you will issue the sale notice. So wait for 30 days before disposing the sale. Okay. Issue 30 days sale notice to all the concerned through registered AD. Placed it on the property. Published in the two new local leading dailies. One of which should be vernacular. Sale, very, very important, friends. Sale to be effected only after completion of 30 days from the date of the sale notice. Before that, you should not dispose the sale, because borrower has, last point you say, this is very, very important. So I will explain to you, you will understand. The borrower's right to redeem the property by the, that is, right to redeem the property by the mortgagor available till the publication of the sale notice only. Very, very important. This is the difference between the amendment in 2016 and earlier. Earlier, how it was, you issued a possession notice, you issued a sale notice, you sold the property. So after selling the property, what you got to do? You got to go to the sub-registrar office, re-register the property in the name of the purchaser. Okay, you have to re-register. Sale deed you have to put. You have to go and re-register in the name of the purchaser. Suppose before the re-registration is done, if the borrower is bringing the entire money and telling you, sir, this property is our ancestral property. So far, I could not pay. Till today, whatever liability in the account for all your charges, I will pay the money. Please stop this registration. So you have to stop the registration. Even though the purchaser has paid you full money, you have to reimburse the money to him, because in your sale notice itself, you would have put the condition. At any time, bank will stop the sale and the money will be reimbursed to the purchaser. That is your right. So earlier, before the 2016 Act is amended, borrower's right to redeem the property is available till the mortgage is the re-registration is done. But after 2016, when the Act is amended, the right to redeem the property by the mortgagor available till publication of sale notice only. You issue the sale notice. Afterwards, it is your right. If he brings money and says, sir, please stop the sale, you can accept. But he does not have the right over that. But you want only money? No, he wants the property, do it. What is wrong? Nothing wrong. But they are asking the question. A right to redeem the property by the mortgagor available till what? Paper possession notice, issue of sale notice, till the sale is completed, etc. So keep that in mind. Right to redeem the property by the mortgagor available till publication of sale notice only. Very, very important. Then how you have to go? So you issue the sale notice. Borrower has not come, least bothered. Now you have 30 days is over. You have to proceed under sale. But in what way you can sell the property? By inviting tenders, you can do, or holding public action, you can do, or by obtaining quotations, you can do, or by private treaty. Private treaty means you find out there is another purchaser. So between you and him, given understanding, you already fixed the reserve price, give the property to him. That is called a private treaty. So when it is so, generally, we will go by holding public action. If public action fails, then we will go for private treaty. Even though nobody is there, again you will go for public action. Okay, let us see the slides. Say, I told you, private treaties also, generally bank goes by public action, e-auction. You would have seen the newspapers. So generally we go by e-auction. So if the e-auction is filed, we'll go for another e-auction. Or there, everywhere it is filed, we'll go for private treaty. Even then it is filed, again we'll go for e-auction. So let us see. So if the property value is up to 100 lakhs, you have to go for one public action. In that public action, if you have filed, you can go for a private treaty. If you find out some purchaser, for the reserve price which you have fixed, you can sell it to him. But you have to prove that you went for a public action which has failed. So one attempt to be made to sell the property through public action, okay, before opting for sale by private treaty. Very, very important. Then, if the property value is above 100 lakhs, above 1 crore, If the property value is above 1 crore, at least 2 attempts to be made as above before opting for sale of the property. So if it is above 1 crore, first one sale you have to go. If there is no bidders on that, again second sale you have to go. Even if there is no bidders on that, then only you can go for the private treaty. All public actions to be done online only. So e-auction. However, if the liability is less than 5 lakhs, you have the option either do e-auction or offline. Okay, when the property value is less than 5 lakhs. Okay, so next, this is not that much important. This slide is very important. So on the date of conclusion of sale, so that is on the date of conclusion of the sale, 25% of the reserve price has to be paid by the successful bidder. That is, at the time of giving the bid itself, he will give 10% of the reserve price. On the day of completion, along with the 10%, another 15% he has to give. 25% of the amount will be given to you. For example, if the property reserve price is 1 crore, on the completion of the sale, on the day, you should have got only at least 25 lakhs from the borrower. The remaining balance, he has to pay it within 15 days. But the remaining balance, these questions they're asking. The remaining balance, he has to pay within 50 days. So if he's not able to give within 15 days, the secured creditor can give 3 months time. Okay, these numbers you should know. So within 15 days, the balance amount to be paid. If he's not able to pay the balance amount within 15 days, the secured creditor can give 3 months time. Okay, once the amount is paid, then security creditor will give a sale certificate upon the receipt of this entire sale process. So this is next point is very, very important. If action failed for the first time you are fixing 1 crore, sir. So based on what you are fixing, the valuation report. What is the valuation report will give? The valuation report will give guidelines value, market value, and distressed sale value. What it will give? That is guidelines value as per the sub-registrar office, prevailing market value, and distressed sale value. 3 values will give. Suppose you have fixed a sale price, reserve price of 100 lakhs for the property. Suppose the property has not sold in that 100 lakhs. Then whether anybody has the power to reduce before you going for the next action, whether anybody has seen the power to reduce the sale price by what extent. So if action failed for the first time, reserve price can be refixed with a reduction up to 10% of the reserve price fixed earlier, provided the same is not below the distressed sale value of the valuation report. That is, who fixed the reserve, who can say if the sale has failed, so reserve price can be reduced up to 10% of the earlier reserve price. How much you have fixed? 100 lakhs. So you can bring it to 90 lakhs, provided the 90 lakhs should not be below the distressed sale value given in the valuation report. These questions will be there because very, very complicated. So particularly for scale 3 to 4, how much reserve price can be reduced? First sale, it failed. So reserve price can be refixed. By how much you can reduce? 10% of the original reserve price. So, but it should not be less than the distressed sale price given in the valuation report. Who has the authority to reduce the reserve price? The authority who fixed the reserve price has the power to reduce the reserve price to this extent. Okay, that you should know. Then, next. So further, even after reducing 10%, you are not able to sell the property. Further reduction reserve price, not more than 25% of the reserve price fixed for the first time, subject to the condition that the reserve price is not less than 90% of the distressed value, can be permitted by the next higher authority. First, if RO has fixed, now it has to go to the circle, next higher authority. If the property further is not sold, the HO has the power to further reduce the reserve price. These points you should know, very, very important. Then here, very, very important, friends, these points which we are discussing now, in all cases, before going in for sale, you have to ensure that the valuation report is not more than 1 year old. Before going in for sale, you have to ensure that the valuation report is not more than 1 year old. If the valuation report is more than 1 year old at the time of sale, you have to get a fresh valuation. At that time, you have to compare the existing valuation and the old valuation. If the difference between the old valuation and that is valuation is huge, If the new valuation, if market value is more than 20% of the original valuation, reserve price to be fixed by the next higher authority. Okay, these are all the numbers. These are all the things you have to know it. And then one more point here I want to tell you is, so suppose one sale is failed, one sale is failed. You have to go for another sale. The reserve price you are fixing or the same reserve price you are continuing. Option is for you. So before next to sale, whether again sale notice to be issued or not, that question they are asking. When one sale is failed, before the next to sale, whether a sale notice to be issued or not. If there is no major changes in the original sale, that is sale notice. For example, there is no change in the reserve price, etc., etc. You can give sufficient 15 days sale notice. Again, I repeat, when one sale is filed, you have to go for another sale, So whether you have to give a sale notice or not, because possession and all is taken, whether you can give another sale notice, if there is no change in the reserve price, there is no major change, then sale notice to be given, but it is only 15 days sale notice. On the other hand, if the sale price you have reduced, if you want to go in for another sale, in that case, again you have to give 30 days sale notice to the borrower. Okay, so these are all the points which you should know in the SARFAESI. So let us discuss only 5 questions now before we say. So that is next paper. Test paper 4, 5 questions we will see, then we'll close the day. For issuing demand notice under SARFAESI, point number 1. So we are discussing test paper 4, that is 5 questions we'll be discussing for the day. For issuing demand notice under SARFAESI, the limitation period need not be enforced since the remedy is not available to the court, true or false. I told you, in the case of a time-barred debts, SARFAESI action is not possible. Answer is false. What is the question? For issuing demand notice under SARFAESI, the limitation period need not be enforced since the remedy is not available through the court. Answer is false. It should not be time-barred debt. For question number 1, paper 4, answer is false. Question number 2. Under SARFAESI Act 2002, an authorized officer is scale 4 and above, scale 5 and above, officer approved by RBI, officer approved by the board of the bank. So the answer is correct. The nearest correct action here is officer approved by the board of the bank. Okay, minimum it is scale 4. It is not scale 4 and above as per the section SARFAESI Act 2002. The minimum should be scale 4, but the board of directors can make it either 4 or 5 and above, 6 and above, anything. So for question number 2, the answer is officer approved by the board of the bank. Then question number 3, possession notice is issued by security creditor. Who is a security creditor? The bank. Possession notice is issued by the security creditor as per section 13.2. We saw 13.2 of the SARFAESI Act 2002. Question number 4. Within how many days the borrower has to approach DRT court for your demand notice under SARFAESI and how much amount he has to deposit? 30 days 100%, 45 days no deposit, 45 days 50%, 30 days 50%. I told you, whatever may be the amount of that is SARFAESI action, you should go only the DRT court. You should not go to the civil court. So you don't be under the impression for DRT court it is 20 lakhs and above. It is only normal cases. In the case of SARFAESI, even the liability is 5 lakhs. The borrower or you have to approach only the DRT court. So here, when I told you, when he approaches the DRT court, how much he has to deposit? He need not deposit any money. Only the stamp paper he has to pay. Within how many days he has to approach the DRT court? 45 days. For question number 4, the answer is B. 45 days, no deposit. So these things are there in your PowerPoint. Question number 5. If the borrower is not satisfied with the order of the DRT, he can approach DRT within how many days and how much he has to deposit. I already told you, within 30 days, he has to approach the DRAT by depositing 50%. For question number 5, answer is D. So the DRAT can reduce it to 25%. So without paying any money, DRAT will not entertain the appeal. So for question number 5, the answer is D. DRAT appeal within 30 days by depositing normally 50% of the amount. Okay, friends, we will stop for the day. It is 1 hour 30 minutes, 9:20 late. So we will see next. We'll finish up these questions in another next class, and then we will take up with NPA provisioning norm whenever time